Hey guys, it's Chris, and I'm back with another Game of Thrones video. That's right, a Game of Thrones video. This is something that we talked about a little bit over the course of the last few live streams during the season, but I wanted to go over some things that we should have been at least made aware of or got a little bit more information on during Game of Thrones. So here we go, the top 5 things we should have learned from Game of Thrones. All right, so let's jump right in. The top 5 things we should have learned from Game of Thrones, things they should have given us answers to. I just hadn't done this in a while because, this really broke my heart. All right, so number 1, who in the hell was the Night King? Now, granted, some people will say, and actually have said during live streams, and I've read comments as well in other videos, is we didn't really need to know much more about the Night King. He was just a big bad guy. He represented death, opposing fire, all that good stuff. But he needed to have a Stark connection, especially to Jon, seeing that Jon was both Stark and Targaryen. So you had Jon being related by blood to Dany, the fire side of the world. So Jon, in my opinion, needed to be related to ice by blood on the ice side of the world, hence being kin to the Night King in some way, shape, or form. We should have found out, who he was, that he was an ancient Stark, or a proto-Stark, as we always say around here. And I do believe that will still be the case in the books. We'll probably find out he was somebody like maybe Brandon of the Bloody Blade, maybe that's Brandon Stark's father, and I mean Bran the Builder, not Bran Stark, the current one. But yeah, the main point being that there should have been a deeper backstory in the show as opposed to just the big bad evil guy for the sake of being evil. So yes, I totally get that he was just a random guy and he was basically turned to this thing that he did not wish upon himself. He didn't choose this life, so I totally get that. And I suppose in some ways that is good enough to be a big bad villain. He just simply wants revenge and to kill everybody and everything. And I guess specifically Bran because he is the memory of Westeros. But to me, it's just not quite deep enough for a story of this magnitude. So yes, in my opinion, we should have found out who exactly the Night King was in history as opposed to some random first man. And on to number 2, Jon Snow. Why did RLJ even matter in the first place? Yes, he brought people together to fight. I never did expect there to be an Azor Ahai prophecy or flaming magical swords to come literally true, as in a literal, guy running around with a flaming sword and all this kind of stuff. I've always said that in live streams and videos, all the theory videos I had throughout the years as far as Game of Thrones. But the point is, in the end, he did bring everybody together in that sense as far as being an Azor Ahai character, but there's a lot of people that kind of bring people together. So Jon ended up really not being anything special. Even Sansa told the secret of his heritage when she found out, of course, 2 minutes afterwards, but it never even entered the conversation about the next ruler during the council meeting at King's Landing in the final episode. So to me, it just kind of was watered down. It really didn't mean anything more than being a plot device to basically divide Jon and Dany and split them apart in the end and kind of help push her over the edge as far as becoming the quote-unquote Mad Queen. And speaking of the council in King's Landing, let's go to number 3, Bran Stark. What was Bran's actual purpose? I mean, if you think about it, what did he actually do? He went up north of the wall. He trained to become the next three-eyed raven. He found out about Jon. He came back south to tell Jon that he was, in fact, Rhaegar's son and Lyanna's, being the son of ice and fire. He spied on the Night King just a little bit and told people kind of where he was and what he was up to. But other than that, he really didn't do anything. He was purely bait. Yeah, so Bran was just bait. And then, of course, he becomes king. Now, I get the king part just a little bit, and we'll talk about that in just a second, because he is somebody who didn't want it. He's not really human anymore, so he doesn't care about power and all that kind of stuff. So I get that little aspect of it. But other than that, Bran really didn't have a purpose other than to eventually become king, and he didn't even know what was coming. It was really unclear if he could see some parts of the future. On one hand, he said, this is why I came all this way to become king, and on the other hand, he didn't want to be king. So it was always really iffy about if he could see the future. Now, obviously he could in some little visions, but he couldn't really put 2 and 2 together and really make a whole picture out of it. So I don't believe Bran knew all this was going to happen whatsoever. So other than actually just informing Jon of who he actually was, which, Sam could have done that, and then coming back home to Winterfell to warn everybody, doing a little bit of spying via crows, and then basically sitting there becoming the bait for the Night King in the Godswood, Bran Stark really had no purpose. And speaking of the council and Bran Stark, number 4, why have a council only to elect a king? Sure, it sounds good, and of course, they laughed in our faces a little bit as far as a kind of a meta thing when Sam proposed democracy and had everyone laugh at that. Should my dog get a vote too, and all that kind of stuff? Because all of us theorized that things would change. Now, I've always said it wouldn't change overnight. It would be at least a hint of democracy, and I guess that's what it was in a way, so that's fine. But the problem is they say what they're going to do is elect a king, and then when that king dies, instead of being a bloodline thing, they're just going to choose a new king. Who's to say that when Bran dies, the next king that's elected just says, you know what, to hell with this whole council thing, I'm going back to bloodlines. If you're electing a king and giving him absolute power, that king can therefore abolish the council and just go back to the way it was. So the wheel was never really broken. And number 5, why in the hell is there still a Night's Watch? I mean, the dead are, well, they're dead, and the wall is no longer a wall. It's more like a open door. It's a wall with a big ass hole in it is what it is. It's not even a wall anymore. So really, the Night's Watch is no more than a penal colony at this point. And technically, the wall is no longer part of the Seven Kingdoms. I mean, Sansa took the north and became an independent state, and they own all that property. At least we think so. Unless, of course, there was some kind of off-screen agreement that the wall would remain as part of the Seven Kingdoms, but they didn't talk about it. They didn't draw any boundaries or anything like that. So the Night's Watch is now just officially a penal colony, and it serves no other purpose. And I said this would be a top 5, but what the hell? Let's throw in a bonus number 6 as far as the Starks go. Why all the pack survives talk when the band split up after killing the Night King? I mean, a Stark is king, Bran Stark is king, but Sansa goes independent and becomes the queen in the north. Arya goes west of Westeros, which we all know is just going to Essos. I've never really gotten that point whatsoever. I mean, this has been done before. In Fire and Blood, Alyssa Farman goes and does exactly the same thing. She stole the dragon eggs that would eventually become Dany's dragon eggs to become Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion. And in that backstory in Fire and Blood, the sea snake Corlys Velaryon actually thought he saw Alyssa Farman's ship over in Ashai, which would explain how the dragon eggs got there to eventually end up in Dany's hands in the first place. So this is something that we're all pretending is brand new. Arya thinks it's brand new, but this has been done before. When you go west of Westeros, you just end up going to Essos anyway. It's just a different route to the same location. So I've never really gotten that point. And then, of course, you have Bran becoming king, like I mentioned before. He did initially want to be a king's guard, so I guess he got a promotion. Anyway, guys, that's all I had. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I have not made a Game of Thrones video in a long time, only because it really just broke my heart. And I still love this show. That's why I hate it so bad that they did it the way they did it. I completely get that Dany going mad was going to be a real thing. That's going to happen in the books. Bran's going to become king in the books. Now that you know how this thing ends, you can kind of start to see the clues in the book or think back to clues that you missed the first time or the first, 10 times around as you do reads and rereads. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to throw this out there to kind of get it out of my system. It's taken a while to get over this. I've accepted it is what it is now. But anyway, it still broke my heart when all this went down the way it went down. Although, again, Season 8 was really odd in the sense that Episode 2 was probably the best Game of Thrones episode ever in, like, every season. And then the whole entire Season 8 was pretty much, in my opinion, a disaster. The way they ended it, the way they rushed things and didn't explain some of these things, and some of these things we talked about today. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. And of course, if you dig what I do here, please give these videos a like, comment, and a share. And be sure to subscribe to get everything, and click that notification bell so you're notified when I drop a new video. We will be doing The Witcher. We will be doing prequels when they come out. Fire and Blood, whatever that's going to be called. The Blood Moon prequel as well, and any other prequels that come along as far as Game of Thrones. We're going to continue with other shows. We have Lord of the Rings coming. I'm going to continue doing reactions to some of these other shows that are a little bit older. So we have a lot more coming on this channel. So be sure to subscribe, and let's try to turn this damn thing around, because seeing this whole thing go backwards is really getting on my nerves, watching everything burn. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.